At one point, I followed her back to the bathroom. When she came out, I didn't say a word. I just laid a big kiss on her, and the rest is history.
The same way they met would be the same way Richard Austin would propose to Debbie Keene. The two met while in college when Debbie first started an internship at KX News in Minot, where she would begin to build not only her own family, but a work family began as well.
Eventually, Deb, Rich, and I did a lot of things together. So what started out as a working relationship became good friends. She loved being on the pontoon. She loved fishing.
Like to go out fish as much as we could, you know.
Mom really loved to fish. It was almost annoying because there was always a rod in the trunk of her car, and if we were going anywhere and there was a lake or even a pond, I mean, you couldn't drive by with, oh, we gotta stop and, you know, drop a line for at least 20 minutes.
We would do things like that at Mouse River Park, go camping, and at night there was a fire and we'd go in and play blackjack or something, you know, inside the bar.
However, her real passion was with her job at KX News and writing stories about people.
She loved her job. You knew it every time you talked to her. She was responsible for doing what I call the most interesting part of news, and that was the human interest stuff. And that was her specialty. She could tell a story that profoundly brought out the most interesting aspect of that individual or the event that she was at.
And that's what Deb loved to do, is the stories on, human interest stories. That's what she enjoyed, and that's what I enjoyed shooting. She was a wordsmith. She could come up with phrases to make things interesting, very creative and as far as how she would put people's thoughts and what they're doing together and describing them, what they're doing. So that, like I say, if you were standing and washing your dishes in the house and the TV news was on in the background, you knew exactly what's going on without having to go over and look at it. You could tell it, you could see it in your mind.
Debbie was the best, and probably to this day, was the best storyteller I ever knew. That's what made Debbie a good reporter. She could tell a story, and she could tell the story in a different way that most people couldn't. You and I could tell a story, but it would be totally different from the way Debbie told the story.
I think she's the most gifted writer that North Dakota's ever seen, and Jim Olson would be second. So, apologies to Jim, but I think he would say the same thing. Deb could make a phone book interesting if she was writing a story about it. That's how talented she was, and it was just fun to listen to her because it was just a story.
She was really good at spinning yarns, as they say. If you could listen to her tell a story, you felt like you were there.
If you have the opportunity to dig through the stacks of awards that are at KXNC, a lot of those are writing, and that's all Debbie Keene. And she just had a knack for, I think, just always trying to look in the most positive aspects of I think, her career and the community.
She soon became loved across North Dakota, and everyone knew her for her profound writing abilities.
Everyone knew who your mom was, so it's like being a second wheel all the time. But it seemed like when we moved back to Moa, that more people knew her than did me in my hometown.
She was a genuine person. When she talked to people, she actually cared about what they were saying about their life. It wasn't small talk, because there's things to be found in the small talk that tells you a lot about a person.
I think she did it because it cheered her up and it cheered other people up. That she took great pride and great fun in being a reporter.
She took her job seriously, and she always cared. That was really good, and I just wish other reporters that are starting out would see that. I mean, that's what I remember is, man, I got to step up to the plate, when I'm on with her, because she's always, when she's on.
Because of how she was able to meld the writing with the video, she worked a lot of times with Perry Mull. Her and Perry were always inseparable.
One of the ones that stands out is called the Polka Postman, and she had a good time, and I had a good time with it, because it was a story about a postman, and we took a mailbox, cut the back end of it out, stuck a camera in the back, so that when he came up to deliver the mail, he saw the box open up, he saw him put the mail in and close it from the camera. He was a big guy, and he drove a little Mercury Maverick, And she said that when he got into it, he strapped it on him, you know, which is perfect. You know, he would strap it on himself because he was so big. And that was one of the most fun. And he was a real good interview, and we just had a real good time with it.
The golden apples always seem to stick out in my mind because those were always so uniquely done.
You know, you always associate a teacher with an apple. And she started the Golden Apples, which is an award she gave to once a week to teachers, and then at the end of the year she would have the Teacher of the Year.
She did a whole series called a Golden Apple. I'd say a couple years ago, like I'd run into people, and they might be retired now, and you know, like the teacher would walk up and go, "I got a golden apple." I mean, that meant something because it was your mom, it was authentic, it was real, it meant something. And people were proud of the golden apple.
My wife's Debbie Keene, the Golden Apple. And a lot of times it's like, oh yeah, I just seen her last week, she's at our school, or oh, I just got the Golden Apple. In a small world.
Though she took her job seriously, Debbie was mostly famous for her positive attitude, infectious laughter, and oftentimes she was also known as a prankster.
Had a very contagious laugh. One of those people who seeked out laughter, seek to make people laugh.
When I got there, I was remarking how people up here had funny accents, the Norwegian accent, and she would talk normal, and then when I walked in the room, it was, "Oh, you betcha," and she just was like doing that just to tweak me, and it was really funny.
She had taken, of course, you'd bring in rolls or donuts or whatever, and she had taken a Danish and smashed it together in a file, because everything was in filing cabinets. We didn't have very many computers at all, even when I started, but yeah, it took about 3 years to find the Danish file.
They were doing a coach for kids or something like that. She was a practical joker. She got the idea of taking all the coats and filling the guy's car with coats. So he's unloading these coats and bringing them back in the station. In the meantime, people are going out the front door and come back and filling the car with more coats. So the more he took out, the more got put in behind him. That was pretty funny.
Debbie was a lot of fun to work with. She was always energetic. She always had a smile on her face. She always made work fun.
Always had something funny to say, but when she was working, she was working. And you know, she could joke while she was working. I'd walk by in the edit bay and I could hear her laughing about something. You know, it was just, stress level was way low when she was in the room. Nobody got stressed out.
Laughing together is loving to tell jokes to each other and having a good time, and you know, maybe pulling some pranks on some of the other people in the newsroom as well. And it was just, like I say, it was a family.
We were a very close-knit family in our newsroom, a great group of people. And to be able to, you know, look at each other like family and not coworkers, that is, I think, not only how I fell in love with television, but why I stayed in television for so long and why I didn't leave KX until many, many years later.
Not only was she a colleague, she was a very special friend. She included me in her life, in her family's life. 1993, I'm laying in the hospital in Minneapolis because I had just had surgery, and she calls me and asks me if I want to be Tanner's godfather. That is something I'll never forget. I was like, why me?
He's like, I'm not related to you, I don't know you, you know, whatever, but she knew that something in her, she had this way of knowing, you know, what's in here rather than, you know, who you are on the outside.
She said that you and Tanner will be special together, and we are.
You know, watching you and Tanner and my kids run around and play while sitting out in the lawn and have the fire going and stuff, you know, that was just something, it was family. And that's real big to me, and I know it was real big to her because you and Tanner meant everything to her.
However, things for Debbie would suddenly take a change in 2004.
She had a lot of tests done at Trinity. No one could find anything. And one day she went to our chiropractor, and the chiropractor goes, I think you have Parkinson's disease. He referred us to Mayo.
it really took a toll on her body, and it hit hard fast. And it was early onset Parkinson's disease, which is rare. There were a lot of struggles there. She would have trouble moving. She would have trouble getting places.
We knew something was going on, health-wise, and she was really open about it. It was heartbreaking. It really was, because you also saw some of that spark slowly kind of dwindle as I think health was being, it was taking a toll on her.
But I do remember seeing the tremors, and I was a little taken aback by, in my mind, not being around it before, I thought it progressed fairly quickly. So to watch that was pretty tough. And but she didn't complain. Sometimes she would make jokes about, oh, I'm going to spill my water if you do that.
To a certain extent it changed her, but to a certain extent it did not change her. She was the same person. She'd always put on a happy face. She'd always put other people ahead of herself, but you knew at the same time she was struggling.
She kept on working through it as long as she could, and a lot longer than I thought she would. Even if it affected her, affected her body, it did not affect her mind, and she was able to still convey the story she wanted to tell.
The hardest thing was watching her deteriorate, her health deteriorate. That's anybody that you become family with. It's nothing you ever want to see somebody close to you go through.
Debbie's struggles with Parkinson's forced her to leave her job at KX after 21 years of reporting and telling people's stories.
When she retired, we definitely lost something out of the newsroom when it came to that creative writing. Ironically, it was a shifting point within the newsroom as well. I call it like another chapter. There was like Deb and Perry Mall, and after Deb and Perry Mall.
Sometimes, there would be differences of opinion, but it was a family, and we always worked it out. It just didn't work out as easy after your mom left.
Everybody missed her when she was gone. It was a loss. It was a loss to the station. It was a loss to the viewers when she left. And, I lost her she left as my friend, from the station.
Her health would continue to decline after she left KX.
Everyone was put here for a purpose. She always knew her purpose was changing.
I called her up to say, hey, are you excited that your firstborn is actually graduating from college? You're excited to see me walk through the line tomorrow? And she said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it, but your dad will be able to, he'll be down there. And I knew right away something was off. No matter what it was I was doing in life, she was always there. So it struck me odd if she's not going to be able to come to my graduation. And the next day I got a phone call from my sister saying that she had passed away.
Tonight we have some sad news. Debbie Keene Austin, a longtime reporter and anchor for KX News, has died at the age of 50. Debbie began working for us here at KX News in the late 1980s while she was completing her college degree at Minot State University. Over the years, she became well known to viewers across the region for her creative writing skills, her storytelling, overall communication abilities. She was a reporter for a long-time series called The Golden Apple, where local teachers were honored for their talents. Debbie died today, and we certainly send our condolences to her family. She's survived by her husband and 2 children. And from all of us at KX News, we send our prayers and condolences to them.
Debbie was a good one, and she's missed to this day. She brightened people's lives. I think the people that met Debbie will never forget her, because that's what Debbie did. If she came into your life, she made a presence.
I was proud. Proud to call her my mom.
Go again. Okay.
Debbie Keene, KXMC News 13, near Towner.